You are now listening to the
Hey Now.
Hey now.
Hey now.
Hey now.
Hey now.
Hey, hey, hey now.
Hey now.
Hey now.
Hey now.
Hey now.
Hey now.
the Hey Now Media Podcast.
Yes.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Matt from Hey Now, and you're tuned into the Hey Now podcast. We are so excited today. We have a very special guest. We have Tim Marshall from Baldwin Wallace University. Been a huge advocate of the company and provided pretty much all of our talent over the last, I think, 10 years. I don't know. I don't remember at this point, but it's been a while. Stay tuned and subscribe to the podcast. We'll check you later. How are you? I saw you pull up and
I've
kind of been setting this microphone up for a while.
Well, I'm talking shop with Bro. I'm with two Matts,
Yep.
right? So that's a highlight of my 2023 thus far. Things are going well. It's always great to get updates from you and to see how Hey Now is changing and growing and all the cool things that you're doing and all the opportunities that you've given to our students and our alumni over the past 1,000 years.
I know, right?
We've just been working together forever. Have been really, really awesome. The students always love working with you. And what I love is that in class, the students will say, well, I work for this firm called Hey Now, and we have these amazing clients, and this is what I experienced. And it just makes it a little bit more real for everybody else. You've been described as the best place to work.
Oh, nice.
All the Matts are cool, but all the Matts. We like Anne. We love everybody. Awesome place, and you've been described as very real. It's giving and legit. I think are usually
I like
what
legit.
I hear. Yeah, hardcore legit. I think is how you've been described too by some students.
that's
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, no, I mean, there's always a reason why, right? The talent you've been providing has been incredible, and I've known you for a while now, and the curriculum, the progress, the things that you are implementing are always on the cutting edge, and it seems like the students are coming out with a very strong skill set. So it's always really exciting to be able to have that pool of talent. And so I'm very excited to hear, what's new and different, because I was actually speaking to my SEO expert today, and we were talking about the validity of pillar pages and blogs, and is that really the way these days? He says no, it's controversial in the SEO world. But I'm curious, kind of, when we met, it was all about the content offers and the pillar paging and blogging, and that seems to be different now. But I'm wondering what your viewpoint is on it, and just what's new, what's exciting, kind of where are you at with the curriculum?
It's digital marketing being digital marketing. If we had this interview maybe back in April, just a couple of months ago, different answers to that question. If we had it maybe the previous fall, like in November, different answers to that question. So obviously AI is filling up all of the space in my email inbox. It's filling up every single feed, conversations about what does AI's impact on SEO, on organic social, on paid social, paid search, all aspect of marketing automation, and it keeps changing. So for anybody who hasn't gone to labs.google.com to get access to the search generative experience, which is being tested by Google right now, do it, but look at it every day because it keeps changing. So that's Google's entry point. This is separate from Bard. This is a different tool, slightly different SERPs, and you'll see over a span of a week or two changes because it's constantly in a state of flux. And I always said when you do digital marketing, you're working in the present, but you're working toward the future. When you teach digital marketing, you're teaching the present, but you also have to keep your eye on what's happening. So this summer, all of the classes are being reorganized to include more content around AI, because I want a student in the class to learn something today that they could start using in their internship tomorrow. If they're graduate students, they probably have a full-time job, and I want them to be able to take something they learned today and put it into practice tomorrow. So, we talk about what's working, what's not working today. By the time the podcast airs, a lot of it's going to be out of date. So it's really, really hard to say.
Right.
I have questions for you around this, because it's one thing to teach, but also when you're talking with clients and they're asking for your advice and your opinion, you recommend a tactic that eventually when it's time for implementation is no longer valid. It's a really challenging conversation to have, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's actually exactly what's happening where we finally get ramped up with a client. We have a strategy in place. We've done the keyword mapping. Everything's ready to go. And all of a sudden we wake up and the world's changed. And so there are those tough conversations and we are implementing everything. I mean, ChatGPT was the major turning point where we're using it to sort of aggregate and research and gather all of the information we need. It's been really cool we don't really get into influencer marketing yet, I guess, but a lot of clients, that's a buzzword and people want to know about it. And so we are having the AI generate the list of influencers that would be good for that industry and that client and like kind of provide that information. And so it's interesting, we continue to kind of move towards understanding their goals and understanding what tactics in the moment we should be implementing that. And since we're developing partnerships, we're sort of spearheading the like, hey, there's this thing, we should be doing this. We've converted everyone to doing more video content, video capturing, photography, running that through the AI generators to create like the daily recaps I'm creating. I'm shooting all of that, I'm choosing which clips, but the AI is doing the technical work that I'm not able to do. I'm a storyteller, but I've never had any technical skills to bring those stories to life other than like me ranting and like, and Jaffe's known me for a while. It's like, hey, let's do this, and that. And we have this whole idea around like implementing it, but then a video editor would have to go and do it because I'm not a video editor. So now it's AI. I'm seeing people who have really strong strategy and thought and logic and can tell a story or understand a brand. I'm seeing people like their whole world is opening up and it's really cool. We have all of our staff learning it. The marketing managers who are primarily writers are leveraging it and like expanding the scope because now instead of posting once a week, we could post every day within the same amount of scope and feed for our client. And it's bringing more value to them. So the conversation, we are trying to weave the strategic conversation more around here's how we're going to achieve your goals versus like answering the questions around like, are you implementing this or that? I think a lot of our clients are somewhat behind on the conversation. So I'm excited to bring it to them, which is always cool.
Right, and it goes back to, and this has always been the case with people in digital, we've always had to be educators and ambassadors and really walk clients through a process and recommend resources, be resources, and even give trainings to them to help them understand what's happening around them because they get so caught up in their day-to-day. And I see that with students who have great internships with even Fortune 500 companies, but that group that they're in, the marketing team, they're so focused on the to-do list for today or this week or this quarter, looking at anything new or different. There's just not time or culture around it. So similar around teaching and where do we go from here and the impact of AI on SEO or any of those tactics. You focus on the strategy, you focus on the intended goals or outcomes, and it's just like knowing that you're going to travel somewhere and there's multiple roads to get there. Count on us. We're going to get you there, but we might have to take a detour along the way. We might pivot. A new route might open up that we didn't know about. So it's really, I think it's put more of that importance on strategy and outcomes, which I think some in the digital world, no one on this podcast, no one listening, it's easy to lose sight of those goals. They get caught up in the tactic or the trend and not actually trying to meet that objective.
Right, exactly, yeah, and it's so hard when you're running a business and you're relying on an agency or the DMC or even learning how to implement these things for a company. As a marketer, it's impossible to get out of okay, we have 10 clients. Each client has one post today. We need them for the next 40 days. Like there's a lot going on. You got to speak to 10 different clients. You're speaking to designers and all these things. And I'm finding that the tools are now streamlining that process to where it's very feasible for a marketing manager to manage like 8 accounts and have ChatGPT create the writing, go through, make sure it's really great, change things, manipulate it, then run it through some sort of video processor that creates a video for those posts. And just like we've been piloting all of these different things, and some of them work, some of them don't. I mean, the biggest issue we're having is with the design tools. It's pulling from stock that's not matching the words specifically.
Sure.
So our technical clients, like the leveling wedges and the sensors for, liquid levels, you're not going to get a liquid level sensor stock image. So it's interesting, but I feel like everyone's so excited to try it, and the more people trying it, the more input it gets, the better it will be. And so that's different and unique in this technology, that it's not great now, but let's keep using it because it will learn it by itself. And that to me is like, where does that go?
For real. And you think back to when COVID hit, and the advice back then, you schedule social, many months in advance, and then something like that happened and we had to change all of that content that was planned. And then user behavior was way different, so that threw all the algorithms for a loop, and it was just a challenge. So advocating less long-term planning, other than meeting goals and strategy, long-term scheduling and long-term creation of content, because the tools, even ChatGPT, keeps evolving. And what it can do 2 weeks from now will be much better than what it can do today. So I've also noticed that that's a big change in digital marketing education and digital marketing practice, is that we're not necessarily, we're thinking long-term in where we want to grow, but we're not necessarily going, to create 6 months worth of content. Like that used to be the thing to do in the past, right?
Try to get the full year ahead of time, or like, here's our year-long calendar, and we're, in July, you're probably done with the year at that point, like you're saying.
Right. But there could be new opportunities, or every algorithm is going to shift and just keep shifting seasonally, daily. I'm interested in, well, I'm glad you mentioned that you were using AI to support influencer outreach, because so much of the conversation gets centered around using ChatGPT or some other tool just to generate content, which is different from creating content. There are so many other uses for it. I'm encouraging entrepreneurs to ask AI tools for advice. Hey, I have this opportunity, what should I do? And don't do it and say, well, ChatGPT told me to do it, so it must be right and I'm not going to fail. But to weigh pros and cons, see what you get, and to think of other uses, productivity, hacks. I'm really excited for HubSpot users who could access ChatSpot, which is HubSpot's tool that can create content, but you could also, it's voice activated. So I could ask it, give me a list of accounts who engaged last year but not this year. So queries that I might set up as a manual report or have to pull data. It's really serving as that personal assistant for that platform. So all the humans in the scenario, our time is maximized. We can run a lot more efficiently. And I think, we're still early days, but I've seen too much of the conversation around AI just be centered around, it can create a lot of posts for you all at once, when there's so many more applications to make our lives better and more productive.
And you start to ask it like, okay, you're a marketer, you have this problem, what would your strategy be? And like kind of creating these like problem solution scenarios that instead of going and researching, it's like, okay, you're a marketer in the car wash industry, like, what's the strategy? What's that look like? Can you give me some tips on what the website might be? And those things have been really cool, because we've actually taken I think it was a website strategy, and we wrote one, and we asked it to do the research and through these different prompts, get the website strategy out of it. And it was pretty similar, and it picked up stuff that we missed in our strategy, because we asked it like, hey, like, what do you think is commonly missed in a strategy like this? And you just have to like, and that's where it's the like storytelling or the like strategic, logical thinking around like, how do I ask these questions to get the research? And that to me was like the first application of like, oh, now after you can aggregate all of the internet with this thing and not spend your time, and maybe you still need to do research. I think it's like a year behind, or maybe it's catching up to
September 2021.
Right. So, okay, but now you don't have to spend 16 hours of research or 32 hours of research. Maybe as a marketer, you could spend 2 to 4. So the productivity implications have been really interesting too. We got into the Search Labs like pilot as well, and just kind of playing around with that is wild.
We should always be digging around that Labs toolbox. There's something that's in the Labs toolbox right now. It's an add to Sheets. So you just enable it. And then if you're logged into your Google account, when you cast a SERP, there's a search result. There's a button next to it, add it to Sheets. And if you're doing competitor research or you're trying to aggregate content, on a specific topic, it's the littlest hack like that that you get advance notice of. And I don't know, it's pretty cool to demo in class or with a client to the full features of everything that's out there.
Right. And if you're a thinker and you understand like what you can do with a database of information, if this thing's filling out the database for you, and then you could you could market against that, you can advertise against that, you can now ask it against this database to do things. All HubSpot, all these things are based on databases. It's like tiny hack, but major impact for sure.
We're trying to create more rooms like this on campus. We'll have to have you out and give you a tour of some of the newer spaces, but trying to set up collaborative spaces and get rid of maybe classrooms that don't need to be classrooms, but they could be cut up into something like this.
Right. Yeah, because even like the setups that we can consult you on in rooms like this, they're super cheap. Like it'd be so easy to like create breakout rooms that have this where students could pop in, bring their laptop, plug this in and be ready to go. Cause we found that the podcast sort of like, even if you don't want a podcast, this conversation, if this was the basis for our marketing plan and I was doing my discovery and research and really trying to understand like, what do you do? I would want to record it anyways, because now with these tools we're talking about back into AI, it's like you could take this audio, transcribe it into a voiceover, turn it into a video. Like all of my content is coming from this conversation. And so whether you want a podcast or not, we're going to do a podcast. Like we won't call it that, but that's what you're getting.
No, I record all client meetings just to have that transcript. You don't have to take minutes. It frees you up. I think things can be a little bit more organic because you're not worried about, writing that thought down and then you miss something. So, even just something as simple as that could apply to any industry, big company, mid-sized company, whatever the size of the environment, just looking at all of the ways AI can benefit us and not just the content generation piece is important. I think that's my message to people these days is to look at all of the ways it can support you, but also look at all the tools. ChatGPT does have the limitations with its knowledge not going past a certain point in time, but we have Microsoft Bing with its AI enhancements. We have Bard from Google, but then we also have the new SGE. There's just so many different options. In HubSpot, there is the ChatSpot tool that's in development, but it's been fun to play with its AI content assistants within the marketing tab.
Right.
And there are just so many tools out there. And I think just even with digital marketing, right? Yep. If you were engaging in SEM and you bought a subscription to Ahrefs and SpyFu and SEMrush, they all do similar things, right? But you do find value in having an account on each of them, right? Because they have that niche. And I think AI is the same way. And it's just going to get, I think, more diversified in terms of the tools that are out there.
Sure.
My morning routine is coffee and product hunt, just so I get that feed of the 20 new AI tools that launched overnight.
Right.
And 15 of them will be lookalikes to something else. But then there is somebody who's doing something really unique or innovative, improving upon something that's out there. And it's always good to be aware of those.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting. It's like the new modern day version of like coffee in the newspaper, where like you actually had to read the news. I feel like I know all of the news just by like, I don't know how, maybe it's like reading the Reddit news feeds or like social media, but like
it's like newsfeed osmosis. Like you're exposed to it.
I guess right. And I guess I'm thinking it's maybe even just straight from my phone. where like on my phone, you kind of slide over by accident and now you're reading the news. So it's like, I don't know every single news piece, but I'm sure the top 5 like major world news articles, I kind of like know what the headline was. And so now it's like people aren't necessarily reading the paper anymore. I'm sure a lot of people are, but it's like, what's replacing that? And it's like the coffee and AI.
Well, that connects to your earlier point about influencer outreach. So it's interesting we're having this conversation right now because the Shein influencer controversy that occurred recently. So that, company based in China sent several US based influencers for a company tour.
Right.
And showed them a very polished version. There's debate around whether it was a real behind the scenes look at the company's operations, because there's been talk of what are the labor practices like, how are employees treated, and was this a sanitized view? Was this the honest truth?
Right.
And was looking at some research from Reuters that basically stated that more than half of TikTok users and Instagram users more comfortable getting news and staying current based on what influencers and folks in their feed are telling them than traditional media outlets who also may be on those platforms. So now we have this conversation about, was that news? Was that real? What happened? Was that strictly a PR tactic? Was there a nugget of truth? What was actually going on there?
Right.
And I don't think influencers are going to go anywhere. I think it'll put more importance on like micro influencers. So folks that have a smaller following, a little bit more relatable and authentic.
Right.
But I'm so glad that something like that has happened, because my news feeds have been full of that conversation, and people are having a discussion about, well, what could I trust? What's real and what's not?
Right.
And that doesn't happen enough, right?
Well, right. And it's interesting because there's certain industries or things that I'm very familiar with, and I catch that where I have seen a 3-hour stand-up special. I've seen every single second of it. I know every single word. And then you see a news outlet cut a few seconds and piece words together, and then you have some other celebrity reacting to it, but that was cut up too. And now it looks like you have 2 celebrities arguing with each other on a video. It's actually them being filmed. It's for like them for real. It's not a deep fake. And it's just like, I saw the other piece too. I hear the voiceover, and the voiceover is trying to get me to think that these 2 people are in a fight. Like, what is going on? And like, go ahead.
So another thing is, I think the older generation, they don't know that not everything is true if you see it on the news or if
my mom saw that, she'd think it was real.
Yeah, like all these micro influencers, like they might start following these people and be like, oh, well, they're saying that this is true, so it's true. But in this age, you have to kind of think that everything isn't true. You almost have to think, if you hear something, okay, well, that's not true until I can find out that it's true.
Right, like where's the proof?
Well, then how does that affect us if we're doing that kind of work for our clients?
Right, and that's what I was going to ask. Like, how are you teaching against that? Because to me, it was, okay, I've seen these things. I know it's not true, but I haven't seen most things. If it was anything else other than stand-up comedy, which is super niche, I would have thought it was real. And I'm watching because I'm flipping through with my daughter and we're Googling different things or YouTubing them or whatever. But like, how do you teach against that? And is it like an ethics class? Is it preventing the creation of it? Is it like, how do you perceive these things and tell if they're real or not? Like, what do you do?
That's a lot to unpack.
Right.
I think we definitely discussed the ethics and need to talk about the ethics, but that's always been an issue with any form of marketing, communication, and advertising.
Sure. You could have photoshopped something,
which
they did in the magazines.
Anyone, even if something was untrue in a newsfeed now, if you were to do your research, if you were to look into it, you could probably pretty quickly debunk that it wasn't true.
Right.
And so if we're talking about putting out content from a brand perspective to engage audiences, going back to what that customer pain point is and making sure that we're addressing that customer in a way that they see us as a helpful resource, and just to never ever lose sight of that.
Right.
So at least when we're creating that branded content, we're doing it with that customer in mind. But when it comes to influencer outreach, I always recommend to clients, freelancers, contractors, know which influencers are representing your brand.
Right.
You could use a clearinghouse, you could use a talent marketplace, but there are services that you as a marketer really aren't aware who's creating the content for you. Someone was given a scope of work, a type of demographic that you're trying to reach, a marketing message that you're trying to get out there, and they will find people who might be able to speak to those audiences. It's almost like if you were to do display advertising, you very well possibly may not be aware of where your ads are appearing at all times. And then your ad appearing on a certain site could lead to controversy.
Right.
So I do think it is about closing that gap a little bit, even though big part of influencer outreach is doing that heavy lifting on behalf of the client and finding the right influencers.
Right.
You know, it was on my Instagram feed today, and I saw a very funny post from Corporate Natalie. You follow her. She's hours of fun and just enjoy the work that she does to make us laugh at work-life balance and the little weird quirks that happen at work every day. Hilarious post where she was impersonating a coworker that was one-upping her.
Sure.
And it was sponsored content for Dell. But it was such a funny, engaging post. You didn't realize that. So it was good content. It engaged me, answered a lot of questions, represented that brand well, did everything it was supposed to do, but it didn't share any information that was controversial, didn't share any information that wasn't true. I was on my feed. I needed to be entertained, drinking my coffee, hadn't woken up yet, made me laugh. And now I'm talking about it to you,
When
right?
did you know that it was a Dell commercial? Did she at some point say, and buy a computer?
No, did not actually. And, you know, this is something that when people get into paid social, you still have to have good content.
Right.
Whether you're paying, whether it's literally legitimately a paid post or you're having an influencer do it, you still need to have the right content. If you're using AI to create content for you or generate content for you, it still has to be good.
Right.
Just because it spits it out at you doesn't mean that it is going to work. So there were references, the computer was there, but otherwise it was a funny post we could all relate to about that experience where we've all worked with a one-upper, we've all known a one-upper.
Right.
And, you know, it did all the right things. It had the declaration that it was a paid partnership and, you know, it had hashtag ad hanging out there amongst some other copy. So it wasn't deceptive at all.
Right.
It was an ad. It just made me laugh.
Yeah.
It just kept my focus.
And I've been noticing on my feed more and more that I'm noticing a post, I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. And then I look up and I'm like, oh, it's sponsored or it's a promoted post.
Then that's a great post.
And it's exactly. And then I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. So that's like the beauty in good advertising, I guess, and the push for video and organic content and kind of working on that. And the push to get the like mini influencer, the localized influencer on our end has been way more the focus because, you know, if you look at our clients and you look at most of them are local and if you have 100 people following someone that will buy something because they said so, if we can get 15 or 20 of them on board and pay them a very low fee, the volume in that seems to work. And so we've been throwing influencer events, inviting people over. For $18.99, they had the food out. Everyone could try the food, film it, you know, take pictures of it, post it. And so the mini influencer seems to be much easier to vet. And seems to be much more effective for the audience.
Well, we can relate
exactly
to those folks a lot easier than that person who's built their career. And I'm all for content creators. I'm all for influencers who have built an amazing career out of creating that content. I do think there is a point, almost like a cycle, where so much of your presence is that sponsored content. How you got those eyeballs, how you got those followers to begin with, gets a little bit lost.
Right.
And so it is refreshing to find people in my feed who maybe just have a couple thousand followers, but they're doing sponsored work for the Container Store.
Exactly.
They live in a house like mine and are using this brand to help improve a house that looks like mine in a similar neighborhood in Cleveland. We're similar age. Awesome.
Yep.
Just find so much more value in that. But it also makes it more authentic. So there is the challenge of, well, could an untruth be told? But on the opposite, it makes it a lot more honest. I think it keeps the brands honest.
Right. And I've been noticing that authenticity and these like personal like interviews, even not the long form podcasts like what we're doing now is really effective, but just like one question, get someone, ask them like, I was like, hey, what do you do? And they're like, oh, I'm a paver. I'm like, do you like that? Like, they're like, oh my God, I love it. Let me tell you why, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, those clips are the clips that people watch. They love hearing about it. They love the stories and just connecting with humans in content and marketing, I feel has become way more the norm than these like high production, high value, $1 million commercial. Like, just have some guy running down the street in his Nike and ask him like, what's it feel like when you're running in those shoes?
Remember I was telling you last week about the actor that plays the character Ernest?
Yes.
It's the same thing. They hired this guy and he played this character Ernest, and they hired him to do commercials, local commercials all around the country, but they all did it in the director's house, which was like in suburban like Vermont or something. So it all had this like very, familiar feel to the people, and he's selling you toothpaste and he's selling you soap, and it was like he became
house in Vermont.
Yeah, and he became just this huge star doing these commercials, and they got movie deals and Disney deals, and so it's like
That's character of Ernest.
Doing the character of Ernest. Yeah, he was Ernest in all of these commercials. So yeah, just being personable sells, and that's not going away.
No.
And I think sometimes with AI, you lose that personability, the personal feel.
Yeah, you can. I think it depends too. So you're absolutely right. And that's something that's always been important, that authenticity, that relatability, no matter what the tactic is. Having food tastings for micro influencers, it's just the new media relations, right? Would have done that with reporters, 20 years ago.
Exactly.
But I do think with AI, if your prompt is set up to include, here's our customer, and give it a lot of customer information, here's their pain point, here's their challenge, and I want it in this tone, it does insert some personality, but it's funny. If there isn't like an AI fail subreddit yet, there should be, or maybe we start one where it tries to be young and hip and it comes off talking in a way that using words that no one will ever use or no one has used, or it's schlocky or it's too serious.
I've seen those with the image AIs where it's like it does something inappropriate or removes something or puts something there, and it's like really random, and it's like a birthday party and some guy's got a champagne bottle and it's like a bunch of kids in the background. It's like, what's going on?
Oops. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been really interesting to see the transformation, and then as an agency, it's been really difficult for us on the like sort of budget conversation, because to do successful marketing, like we are committed to doing successful marketing. We can't take on every single last client in the world. And so the clients we have are like Van Aken district. Like, it's exciting. This is my neighborhood place that I come to and I get to market it through my agency. Like, those are the type of clients we have. And so we don't want to do anything that's subpar. And so we're posting graphics and we have our blogs and we're doing all these things, and all of a sudden none of that's good. And like, that's not what is successful in marketing anymore. So now I'm out shooting videos, doing podcasts, getting clips, doing all of this stuff that's not in the scope of the project, but it's what we need. And so now it's with the clients that we haven't done that yet with, how do we approach them with our video package, or our shift to, hey, we're doing all of this type of posting, like you were saying, now we're doing all of this type of stuff. How do we charge for that? How do we compensate it? And then also, hey, by the way, for the last 6 months, we've been doing this for you and we haven't gotten paid for it. we're not going to go to our clients and ask for anything retroactively, but, this is working. We have a new program. We've piloted it. It's working. It's doing really, really well. We need to continue. Now you're at a juxtaposition or sort of a crossroads of like, it's going to be an increase of scope, or we shouldn't do this other thing, but this is exactly what we need. And so we're always caught in the crosshair of like, or the crossfire of doing the right thing and getting the best results because we truly care and we're like really partners with the client, but also like we have to charge for this stuff. So it's like, like you were saying originally, like how do you navigate that so quickly? And so far we've been just doing it. And then trying to figure out like, okay, we've been doing this, we need to charge for it. We can, however we figure that out. But I would imagine that's one of our number one challenges that we face.
Right.
Because it keeps happening.
Well, I'm glad though that you keep coming back to, we need to be paid for it. Digital marketers, content creators, influencers know their worth. They need to charge for it, need to be, it's our livelihood. You need to be compensated accordingly. And it's great when you find the client that's in the sweet spot that knows things are changing so quickly. They don't have the internal capacity to address it. So they're counting on you to help. Again, we know the outcome we want. We want growth.
Right.
There are going to be multiple ways of getting there. We might have to take a different turn along the way. And I'm wanting more brand side organizations to respond well to being agile.
Right.
Willing to take something new on. And for agencies, I think it's important then to do what you're doing at Hey Now, where you're doing education, re-education. It's part of the culture to let's learn as much as we can, because we may have to pivot. And what we're seeing now with AI reminds me of the early days of business use of social media. Things are changing, but what do we do? How do we wait? What are we doing?
And then there was like the website 2.0 sort of boom where it was like, you have to have a website. Like if you don't have a website, I can't even believe I'm having this conversation with you. Like, do you want me to are we pulling out the phone book? And so it's like, it's really interesting how the world continues to replicate itself, and it's not radio, it's TV, and it's not, the content offers anymore. It's really cool videos, or it's podcasts and streaming. And like I was even the other day in the video clip that we cut, I said, oh, we're getting ready to broadcast. I'm like, oh wait, it's not called broadcasting, it's called streaming. But it's like the same thing.
Right.
So I always try to hone in on what is the same thing, but it's a different tool, different maybe tactic, but philosophies, strategies, like a person's mindset typically doesn't change.
Well, it's interesting. You talked about how terminology can differ. Always tell the students that you right now are studying paid search, but you may see a job description that uses search engine marketing or uses some related programmatic, whatever.
Keyword advertising.
Just whatever. You've seen any combination of the alphabet soup and the vocabulary terms that are out there. And that I always try to make them aware of, this is what we're calling it. Your internship employer may call it X. Your digital marketing center client may call it this. The more exposure you have to all of those things, the better, because people have different entry points. I still encounter some businesses that conflate everything around social media, not necessarily thinking about the value that other tactics, other approaches might offer. They lump everything together. So making sure students know everything that's out there, and that it could possibly be called different things depending on the environment you're in. So with digital marketing courses, always find myself in a position where we are updating the content of the course from semester to semester. When it was 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, this fall, when Google had announced the shift to GA4 in the middle of a digital marketing class, it was the middle of fall semester, when students were tasked with building a website where they created a Google Analytics account, and then, so it came up out of nowhere. So we stay as current as we can, myself, the other digital marketing faculty at BW. And I always try to build in time in each course, knowing that something new is going to drop. I don't know what it is, but the next chat GPT, the next social media platform, the next whatever is going to launch.
Right.
I have no idea what it is, but I need to create space in the class that, if there's nothing to talk about, we can take a deeper dive at a tactic that we've been looking at, but something's going to launch, and I'm going to have to address it in that class session. I really, I have students in my classes who are interning at large companies, small companies, nonprofits. And again, I want them to see me as relevant. I want them to learn something from me today that they could immediately start using.
Right.
So if I'm not in tune with what's happening and class isn't reflecting the now, the conversations that they might have with their boss at work, then, there's a problem. Right. So it's a little bit different twist on higher education, always being in this state where we're optimizing the classes to reflect what's happening,
right,
building in that wiggle room, but also just trying to prepare the students to be resourceful. That a task you do all the time, you're going to log into Meta Business Suite today, and a button that you usually click on is not going to be there.
Right.
And it could come back next week. They might have been doing a test.
And Google will change the name of whatever they have every week.
Oh, here's how you write an H1. But guess what? Google changes those on the SERP. So, but just help them be resourceful, knowing that things are always shifting. Things are always moving forward.
Right.
It's not the end of the world. If that button's gone, here's what we do. Here's how we approach it.
Right.
And that beyond the how-to, the tactic selection, is I think one of the most important things we can teach them. Because if they're in my class now and they're a junior and they graduate in a year and a half, think about how much the world has changed since November when OpenAI launched ChatGPT. A year and a half from now, it's just going to be amazing. But if they're taught to be resourceful, if they learn about where they can stay current. If we have digital certifications in the courses that we teach from Google and HubSpot and other providers, those expire every year or every other year, which encourages them to get recertified and stay current. I think it's really important for us to teach those principles. So when they get to you on the employer side, they're coming into the situation knowing I'm on it. I can do what's needed of me today, but I'm also looking at what you're going to ask me to do tomorrow.
Exactly.
When that change came up in Google or whatever GA4 you said it went to, what did you do? Did you say, everyone stop what you're doing, we're now learning this?
Yes. And when that was first announced, you could still create a UA tracking code, but you could also create the GA4 code. And when it very first launched, some tools, some plugins, if someone was using a WordPress website, for example, and they used a specific plugin to integrate Google Analytics with that site, it couldn't handle the G code because it only would recognize UA. So with digital marketing, there's so much of those Band-Aids, plugin bloat, the cottage industries that exist around what we do, that it affected the website. It looks different, so you're learning different names and terms and metrics, but then also the rest of the industry had to catch up with it. And of course, July 1 is the great sunset of UA and the move to GA4. So it's been an awesome couple of years to talk about this is happening. But I had seniors who graduated in May, and when they had the intro digital marketing course where they would receive the Google Analytics certification, that's gone now. So they had to certify before it expired. So it's been a great teaching tool. Like, I'm not just saying this, look, this is really, really happening.
It almost seems like part of your curriculum should be, okay, I'm going to have them start this project. And then in the middle of it, I'm going to tell them, hey, you have to scrap it.
And it leads me to my next question around, like, soft skills are such a hot topic right now. And like, how are you integrating that into the teaching? And also, are you noticing that students are coming with much more soft skills or much less soft skills? Because I feel like I had tremendous soft skills when I was in college in 2003 to 2007. But I feel like maybe I was unique. I don't know. I only know myself. So like, how is that going?
Well, you do have great soft skills. You're also a very good presenter.
Oh, thank you.
Great interviewer too. Good questions. I'm not a big fan of calling them soft skills because they seem positioned as less than, right? But if it's all we're talking about, and we're talking about hiring people with stronger soft skills, knowing that those are harder to train, so we could send them to a training on web dev or content creation.
Right.
But man, could they be awesome client facing? I want to hire that person over the other person. Then they're not so soft. They're pretty key.
Yeah. Yeah, so we should call them, I've always called them transferable skills, because I found that the work we did together in our band, making albums, booking shows, creating a flyer. I don't remember who created the flyers, but like everything, it was probably Goose, but like this was like, we were a business, and this was sort of like the culmination of like all of these different skill sets it takes to run a business. And then I was like, oh, those are the skills it takes to run this nonprofit job that I got. And then in the nonprofit job, guess what? I'm the marketer, I'm the account director, I'm this, I'm that. I'm doing everything: membership, leadership development, program development. Now all of a sudden I'm running a business. Those are all the things I learned from there. So transferring those skills from one thing to the other is how I've seen them. And so the soft skill terminology has been weird to me.
Right.
I like to call it like the transferable skill, or like the growth mindset. Like someone with these skills has a growth mindset, which I know is a different thing, but it's mind-boggling when people don't have them to me.
It's challenging, and you can have coursework, and I think the best thing we can do is give students the opportunity to hone them. When someone's applying for a job, the hiring manager or the HR worker, whoever's taking that first pass at the cover letter and resume, their very first question that they have that they want answered right away: could this person do the job?
Right.
And then I think the second question is, can they do it professionally? Would they represent me well? Can I delegate work to them? Could I send them to a meeting on my behalf?
Right.
How will they fit in with the rest of the team? And that's where all of those soft skills, those transferable skills, those interpersonal skills come into play. What can we do to build their capacity that could be done in a half-day training? Could we send them to Content Marketing World? Could we send them to the AI Marketing Institute's Marketing AI conference that's coming up and have them upskill there? But do they have those skills that are transferable no matter what role they're going to be in? And that's pretty key. It's been challenging because I think more than ever, since we have so many ways to communicate, soft skills have exploded. Because can you send a good email, right? And I think we're away from formal business writing, or dear sir or madam, drop two spaces. One of my mentors, who was the chief marketing communications officer for a healthcare system, used to hold up her phone and she would say, if the email is longer than one scroll of my screen, I'm just moving on. I can't, give me the who, what, when, where, just the situation, the background, assessment, recommendation or response, whatever you need from me right away. So can students do that? But if they're in a culture that relies around Slack, do they get the proper use of Slack? Or maybe we have a Discord server. We use Basecamp in our digital marketing center. In our content marketing class, we use Notion.
Okay.
So can they present well?
Right.
Can they communicate with each other effectively? Can they do it digitally in pixels? Can they put together a presentation? Matt, if I'm presenting to you and I only have 5 minutes of your time, can I pull out the elements from this project I've spent 6 weeks on to what exactly you, as the high-level decision maker, leader of the organization, needs to know, and can I do it in those few minutes? So they're pretty critical. And the best thing we can do is give students the chance to apply that, where they learn hands-on, they work with outside businesses and organizations while they're in the classroom, to require internships, encourage internships. Even things like study abroad can help with those communication skills. So I think we will never get to a point where people are coming in with a perfect set of soft skills. Things could always be honed a little bit further. One thing that's interesting are students that do present well, but maybe using pings or direct messages or a Slack channel, that's a little bit different for them. They'd rather that interpersonal content, and they're great public speakers.
Right.
maybe that private one-on-one communication is a little bit difficult. With our seniors, our digital marketing seniors that graduated in May, they had to learn how to present analytics reports. They had to talk about client case studies. But we also did that in person and on Zoom. It's a different skill set when you're talking to this crowd of 100 people than when you're talking to somebody one-on-one. We use a really cool tool called Big Interview. AI will interview the student.
Oh, wow.
And then AI will score the student's performance. And it can look at things like eye contact into the camera. It can measure, did they answer the question sufficiently and quickly? Or did they not give enough information? Did they give too much information?
Right.
So either through giving them those hands-on experiences, trying to model certain things for them in class or in our center, and another great use of AI to record them, give them that feedback. We're really trying to make sure that they're amped up when they get to that entry level position.
That's so cool. And that gives me an idea. We'll do a new segment. We could record Matt Brower, owner of Hey Now Media, doing an interview with this AI Big Interview and see if I could ace it on the first time. And we'll put that out.
For your position at Hey Now.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So that'll be great. I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be our new segment. So I do think it's interesting the way you're teaching and putting this program together. I really find that the students are coming with these skills and they are so equipped to do anything in our agency. Julia came with video editing skills. Nicole was not client facing and now she is. Like, everyone has this like Swiss Army knife, and we've started to like, how do we utilize the full potential of people has been a problem, which that's the greatest problem to have. I'm not complaining. But it's a testament to the program that you've put together where I could have someone running an account and be able to do every aspect of that account extremely well. And so now it's on me as the owner to figure out what is the best use of their time. Is it with the client? Is it strategizing? Is it teaching and educating? And it's really interesting. Everyone kind of like, Emma's been amazing at training and educating. And Julia's been an awesome writer. And we moved her to the client-facing role too after a while because she just happened to be interviewing the clients to do the writing. But I was like, dude, why aren't you talking to all our clients? So it's really cool. And I feel like as marketers, we have to be able to do that because everything keeps changing. And it's not about like, these are my skills, this is what I know. It's, I know how to be agile and I know how to just get the success or the results that's required and communicate this message to an audience, no matter what the platform, and, you know, jump into Slack or jump into like ClickUp or whatever it is. Right. You could learning. I think the ability to learn is, you know, probably the strongest thing you could possess. So it's cool that these students are coming out with that ability. And not all students are.
Well, that is the best compliment ever. And Julia, Nicole, Emma, Tyler, Ryan, Juliet, Brianna. I mean, everyone who's worked with you have always had a great experience. And when you think about it, like, what is a digital marketing major? What is a digital marketing curriculum? Because it means so many different things. Look at the three of us. We're all digital marketers. Individually, we have different specializations, things we can do, but would rather not do, things we can do and love doing and want that to be our full-time job. So part of the program helps students pinpoint specifically what they'd like to do, but we expose them to as many areas as possible. So I want them to have that appreciation of design. I don't have to be a graphic designer, but I also need to make sure that they are quantitatively prepared, that they can be comfortable with data, that they can report on data. So it's that left brain, right brain skill set, and then we can pair it with a minor or other classes if they'd like to specialize. But I'm interested in the future of agencies, getting away from an account manager, different practice areas, and now that we have people who are cross-trained and multifunctional, what does that mean for you? We don't know what the structure looks like, but we know it's going to be much more effective to have multiple people on deck who can add value in multiple areas, not just one, specialization.
Right. Yeah, it really is extremely beneficial because I'm not worried. Like, for example, Nicole is pregnant. Congratulations, Nicole. Yay. I think she's due in a week or 2 weeks. Like it's happening, guys.
Probably when this airs.
Is that going to be is that going to be podcasted? The delivery.
Can we post this on her delivery date? No. She's already embarrassed when I film her, but hey, she signed up for it. But she's going on maternity leave, and okay, someone else will fill in. They know her accounts, they know the role, they know the program. They came from your class. And so it's like the stress of like, what do I do on maternity leave, or someone's sick, or someone quits. Like, you know, we haven't had too many. Tyler got a phenomenal job and has moved on. You know, he worked for us for 6 years or whatever, right. But like, there's things that happen where we're equipped and prepared to like, okay, Nicole, you slide in here, this person slide in there, like Emma we'll have you do this project now. And everyone's ready, and it's smooth, and it's very easy. And so that's been awesome. So I'm curious on this film class. Is it a full class? Is it a section of the class? We had talked about like content capture and the ability to use the phone, capture social media clips, and not be a film producer. We're not making, 30-second Nike commercials or anything like that. But is there a program like that? What is that program called? Like, walk me through that. That's my jam right now. So I'm like, tell me.
I see that all over your feeds.
I know, right?
So want to talk about that, but I want to say quickly that one of the reasons I think interns who've gone on to work for you add value, and interns that work with you and then maybe leave the market or move on to something else, why it's been such a great experience at Hey Now is you give the interns real work. Yeah. They are doing real work, and not every internship experience is really centered around giving them a true taste of what it would be like to do real work in a full-time role. But you take the time to do that with them, and that's so awesome. So yeah. Thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right now within our program, we have a content marketing course that gives students the opportunity to create all sorts of content, from written long form to video, and video a couple of different ways, creating TikTok with your phone, editing video in some simple tools or more complex tools. We also partner with a media production program at BW too. So nice. A couple seniors right now who are double majors in media production and digital marketing. So we tend to appeal to students that maybe they're a graphic design major or a video production major. They will add digital marketing on as a second major. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite students of all time, and I love all my students, they're great, but this was the first, I'm aging myself, but in May, we had a wonderful human being, Skylar. She graduated, and I actually met her senior year of high school when she and her family came to tour Baldwin Wallace to see if it was the right fit. And then she enrolled. So I've known her since she was a senior in high school and worked with her all 4 years, and she just graduated. Right. So it's like, oh my gosh, look at memories. It was just, she's amazing, and she's doing great things. She is a graphic design, or she was a graphic design and digital marketing double major. And she was asked this question, which major, how do the majors relate to each other? And her answer was basically that digital marketing was the why, it was the strategy. But for her, design was the how. Mm-hmm. So digital marketing, what's the goal? How do we get there? What are the different ways to get there? And design was how she was contributing to the strategy that she learned to develop as a digital marketer. Right. And the same is true with the students that come in from the video production side of things. So you do the digital marketing major, and then you can choose your own adventure by pairing it with one of those other programs. But we do have that video creation in the content marketing area within the program currently. And we've had some exciting conversations about where we're taking the major. We will have just graduated our 4th class of students, which means the students who could have declared it as a first-year student, as a freshman, and went all the way through it. So we have 4 years of data. Right. For those students, we have a couple of years worth of data from students who transferred from a community college to get that perspective. Oh. And now we can make some changes and enhancements to the program. Right. So I look forward to, once the new curriculum is out, talking about some new offerings that focus a little bit more in some content creation areas, and also some classes that focus on account and project management, relationship management, and then account-based marketing and ad ops and programmatic. So we're in a position now where we know what students have experienced. Everything we do is employer informed. You actually helped shape our digital marketing major. Remember, you were in on those surveys and that data collection.
I loved doing that. That was so much fun.
You are going to be asked back to give your. We'll have all the mats come, or maybe just you two. I don't. It's up to you.
Sorry, Sobel.
Very valuable.
He's very valuable insight. But so now that we're able to change the program, we're excited to offer more of that content.
Yeah.
I think the good news about the program is it provides the foundation to make you a competent digital marketer, with the flexibility to focus and take a deep dive and where you really want to. I have a student who is looking for a career in marketing automation. His very first internship was with a large mortgage company based here in Northeast Ohio, supporting the marketing automation team, loved it, fell in love with it, became his lead area, and now is very passionate about that. We have a student that's currently SEO analyst at MailChimp, who lives in spreadsheets all day and is working on an amazing content optimization program, amazing content optimization project. And then we have students that have gone the more design route. So it's cool to see where they've taken this major themselves.
That's so amazing. We have a special guest on the Hey Now podcast. My daughter, Elle. She calls me Bobby. I don't know why. L.H. Brower. Say hello to everyone. She is out. I knew that would happen. And so, that was my daughter, Elle. So that was fun.
Wow.
But yeah, that's... you can go ahead.
No. It's cool to see. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a family organization.
Yeah, it's a family business. So we're looking at the future CEO right there.
She would be. Yeah, my other daughter's the creative director.
Okay, there you go.
She would be the CEO then.
There you go.
Yeah.
So this bottom line is the students who've graduated have really been able to leverage the major and apply it how they wanted to. Some students go on to be account managers and account executives because they're well-versed in the different tactical areas. They make really great, respectful, responsible project managers because they get what you do and they get what you do, so they can give much better estimates of time and budget to the client. So that's been interesting to see that take off as a niche. And then we have some students that may go the sales, business development route, maybe for a tech company that's a digital marketing product that requires a knowledge of the field. In order to communicate that, but a sales engineer, demo, customer success type position.
I'd like to meet someone that does that, who's a student, because that's a need that we have as we grow. I'm putting together with my business partner
another venture.
No. This is Hey Now sells branding. This is exactly like step by step. Hey, this is the value in branding. This is how we do it. This is the price. This is what you get. And just like a sales program that someone could call 40 people, see if they could book a meeting with 5 of them, open up this sales deck, walk them through it, do the sales enablement and follow-ups. That like we're about there. So I've been doing that all myself for the last 10 years, and so is Matt Sobel. But having interns or people learning that would be awesome, because we've never really done that for our own company.
Well, it's also great to hear you talk about once you get the client and the prospect becomes the lead becomes the paying client, retaining them and really positioning yourself as that valuable partner that's educating them and helping them along the way. That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, it's been great. So I'm going to throw you a curveball. Where are you from?
Where am I from?
Yes.
So I actually grew up in Youngstown, Ohio.
Oh, awesome.
So specifically Austintown. For people who know the area.
Shout out Austintown.
Shout out to Austintown. Family lives now in Boardman.
Downtown Austintown.
Yeah, right.
So right near the Pennsylvania border, a little closer to Pittsburgh than Cleveland. So it was interesting growing up. You were Cleveland baseball, but Pittsburgh football.
Yep.
So the very there's a hardcore division in the family. If you drive
Penguins
around, the YSU Penguins. If you drive around Youngstown, you'll see that there are maybe the Browns bars or the Steelers bars because we're right there. So a little bit confusing. Yeah.
Sure. Very cool. And what brought you to Cleveland?
let's see, I did my undergrad and was looking for opportunities all right, long story short, originally began college as a Spanish major.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Hola.
Oh, yes. And ethnic studies minor, the career trajectory or the career goal at the time, I wanted to be an interpreter for the UN. And then went to college and learned about other options and got into PR and then marketing, started working in the PR field, and then found myself in a position where I might be overseeing a department, some of which the employees were communicators, some of them might be marketing professionals, some of them might be data analysts. So then I went and got a master's in integrated marketing communications and had enough credit hours to be able to teach marketing, because you do need to have so many credit hours at the graduate level to teach at different types of universities. And then just through networking, had the opportunity to go to BW to write a course on social media marketing.
Oh, wow.
And that was all I did. I taught that course once a semester, drove to campus and left, was consulting full time. And then this position came up just a couple months before I met you. I think it was like 2017.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
To launch our DMC, which originally was the Digital Marketing Clinic, but we've evolved to be the Digital Marketing Center.
Right.
So great brand position because we can still be the DMC.
Yeah.
We just changed what the C means. It just means we offer more. And the university's really embraced the program. They've been really supportive of our graduates. And we just keep on growing and growing the department. Our DMC is open to students from majors across campus. But we also have launched our digital marketing major and coursework around analytics and content creation too. So that was a big departure.
So were you consulting for your own company or were you working for an organization?
Yeah, it was interesting. So I was with a healthcare organization here in town and had a major milestone in that we launched an app, a personal healthcare assistant app for that system.
Oh, wow.
And it was a point in my career where that was a big enough win and boon that having that content on my LinkedIn profile started to get those in-mail messages from recruiters, and joined a consulting firm that had just landed a big healthcare client that was going through a lot of digital transformation. So hadn't necessarily planned on leaving where I was at, but it seemed like a really good opportunity at the time. And at that consultancy could work for the firm, but could also take on my own clients as well. And that was really helpful to have a lot of flexibility. I could be in the office. I could be working remotely. I've worked in every Starbucks in Northeast Ohio and every locally owned coffee shop too. But that also allowed me to have the time to develop the course at BW that eventually led to the other opportunity there. But I've worked for myself, doing my own consulting. I've worked for other consultancies. I've worked brand side. So when I talk to students about where they could go career path wise, I use the acronym ABE, ABE. So work agency, work brand side. You could be an entrepreneur. That could mean influencer, or that could mean you own your own consultancy. And it's been neat because they're all similar, they're all different, but it's been helpful because I can address each of those as I talk to students. So it's been a nice career ride. Really didn't expect to land where I am, but when you think about it, like the reverse chronology, it all makes sense.
Yeah. So where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to Bowling Green State University, so go Falcons.
Hey, what about
near
masters?
Toledo? To Eastern Michigan University, just outside of Ypsilanti.
Yeah.
So love Michigan.
Yeah, me too. It's actually, don't tell anyone, it's one of my favorite states. I was in a band, we were touring and we would tour Michigan, and Michigan was the best because you hit Detroit, Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, Lansing, Grand Rapids. You could hit them all in a row. Hit Saugatuck, go to the beach, and then you go to Chicago. Yeah. And you perform Chicago. So like do Cleveland to Chicago, like Michigan. And it's so beautiful. Like, and the marketing's amazing. I love their Pure Michigan branding. And so very cool. That's awesome. I know you love being a professor and working with the students. What's it like?
I mean, it's awesome. It's a great job to have. I'm glad, though, that I work with the Digital Marketing Center because I still get to consult and I still get to work hands-on and play with ChatSpot and all the other toys that are out there and get to work with clients. And even though the DMC, it's not a class, there's still so much education that goes on, even if the students just learn how to work together, different functional areas. So I have a different view than maybe some other faculty who are just in the classroom. It's awesome when students have an aha moment and you witness it.
Right.
When we talk about how Google really works and here are students or how the TikTok algorithm works. And you have students who had been consumers and all of a sudden they learn,
right,
what
just happened
what
to
do
them?
you mean? And they start to see things a little bit differently. That's always great. There's a lot of responsibility, though, because you're the professor. I'm also an academic advisor and a mentor, and I work with our career center and help students decide what the right path might be for them. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. But I would encourage anybody who is agency or brand side, we need more faculty who are working in industry, who have that professional background. And, so much business development is through those soft skills, the presentation, the workshop, that it really is a nice segue, I think, for some people to shift, pivot a career from being a marketer to being a professor.
Right.
I have the students call me Tim. I don't like to go by Professor Marshall. I don't involve a lot of exams in my classes because I'm trying to get them ready to work for you.
Right.
And you're not going to give them an exam.
Right.
You're going to give them stuff to do. So try to give them stuff to do. We do a lot of what's called flipped classroom experiences. So if there's a quiz, they would actually take that at home on their own.
Okay.
And then they would come to class and work on a project that would typically be given as homework. So, Wednesday we talked about XYZ topic. Friday, you're going to come in and spend all day applying that. So here's a funnel and let's do some conversion rate optimization calculations.
That makes
let's
so
do
much
this.
more sense.
So it's different. So their solo time is with projects that are just to make sure they're on track. But with me, they're working on the bigger projects.
Right. And that's how, honestly, the world's working. It's like, why would you have all of your students come to take a quiz in class where they're sitting around a bunch of people in silence doing their own thing?
Quiet.
And then working on homework by themselves where they should be collaborating? Because in the agency world, we're remote work. Everything's getting done. You're working on your tasks. You're thinking about the strategy. You're posting things. You're deploying things. But we're getting together every couple of weeks. We're talking about the big picture. Okay, what's the 3-month campaign for this one account?
Right.
Everyone talk about it, work together. So it really is reflecting the real world experience where you have work to do by yourself, and then you have work to collaborate with people, because in the agency world, the conversations between the digital advertiser and the brander and the writer and all of these things, that's where the fun stuff happens, and that's where the success is. So that's great to see it's happening in the classroom.
Well, and trying to get them ready for work. I mean, if students are used to doing homework, they may feel that, well, I do this work better on my own time.
Right.
But you're going to have to do it on your employer's time.
Exactly.
So let's start building those skills. And you had asked about soft skills, and there's a great organization called NACE. It's the National Association of Colleges and Employers. So we have folks from university administration and faculty, and then we have major employers represented. And they've come together to produce a list of career readiness competencies. So no matter what the student majors in or what their career goals are, what should they be able to do? And teamwork, collaboration, problem solving, working with technology, those are those competencies. And the best way to make sure that there's teamwork and collaboration happening is to be there while it's happening.
Right.
So we involve that. Our content marketing course is what's called an X course, experiential learning course. The entire class, they work as a content marketing agency for outside businesses.
Right.
And at that point in their career, most have it their last semester on campus. They've done this work in internships. They've done this work in other classes.
Right.
The class is really about, did you two learn how to work together? Were you able to delegate? When the client had a curveball, how did you deal?
Right.
And you can't give an exam on that.
No.
And there's still exams, and the students do certifications, so they have to pass Google exams, Meta exams, HubSpot, Academy
that's the
exams.
exam I want them as an employer. Like, can you come to me with these certifications?
Right, exactly.
Right.
So I think it's just shifting the focus of how class time is used versus off time and alone time to make it as close to coming in for a day of work as we can.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So kind of to wrap things up, I would love to, I would imagine there's thousands of things you could say to someone, but as a departing word of advice for any marketing student out there who's listening, we actually do have a lot of marketing students that kind of follow us and read our blogs and things like that. It was funny, we did the reverse engineering on the SEO metrics, and we're like, how do we get more leads? And we're like, oh no, all of our followers are college students. Like, they don't own businesses. They're not marketing.
They will.
Exactly. So that's what I said. So anyways, what would you say to them as just a departing word of advice?
Stay as current as you can and know that digital marketing is a profession. We all use Google, TikTok, any social platform to consume content, to be entertained, to answer our own questions, but follow the accounts that those platforms have created to share news. Always try to be one step ahead with what's new or now. Walk into a job interview and ask the person who's interviewing you for a job, how is your organization handling this new change on TikTok? How are you dealing with a difference in SERPs on Google?
Instant hire.
Always stay current, and that really in the digital marketing world, staying current means staying a step ahead.
Right. Very cool. Well, thank you so much. This was
you.
incredible. We'll have to put this up against the interview with Tom from Aerial Agents as the longest interview. I could ask many more questions, but we're going to wrap things up today. Really appreciate you stopping by here at AO, and it was awesome seeing you. Very excited to talk to you again soon. And yeah, that's about it. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you.